I'll call the East Lyme regular meeting to order of the Board of Selectmen of December 18th, 2019. If you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dan, why don't you start us off then?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additional agenda and consent items. I do have an additional agenda item, if you'd allow me to add a executive session down maybe past the selectmen's response even. We can go into executive session and then come back and adjourn the meeting. Is that okay with everyone?
Okay,
Any objection?
I'll move to add an executive session, make it 5A, and the purpose?
Purpose would be for property transaction and negotiations.
Property transaction negotiation.
Second.
It's been seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Is there any consent item to add, or are we good with that? We'll move to delegations then. And I know someone from our planning commission would like to address. Michelle?
Thank you. I think I know most of you. Michelle Williams. I sit on the Planning Commission, and I'm the chair of the Plan of Conservation and Development Subcommittee. As you all are aware, our Plan of Conservation and Development required update is due at the end of 2020 so that we can still be eligible for many different sources of state funding. So that is one important reason to update it, but also as a vision document for our town. So the subcommittee was formed just under a year ago. We've been doing a lot of research and work to get ourselves up to speed on what has come out of the last POCD in 2009, what we've checked off the list, what's still ongoing, what we might like to add. And I just wanted to update you a little bit on some of the things that we've been doing, because we really want to make sure that everyone is on the same page and we're getting a lot of feedback so that when we do complete the edit, there's no surprises. So towards the end of the summer, early fall, we started reaching out to a number of stakeholders that we identified. We identified a few stakeholder groups: town departments and staff, our boards and commissions, and also community groups. So like the Nyack Main Streets, East Lyme Public Trust Foundation, those kind of community groups. We reached out with some information, just saying that the time has come to update and we'd really like their help, support, feedback, and started communicating with them. We also launched a community questionnaire, which went online about the middle of October. That will stay online until December 31st, the end of the year, where members of the general public, any of us, can go online and fill out a really open-ended questionnaire that's not meant to be a mandate on public opinion, but gives us a lot of really good anecdotal information to dig into further, to kind of get a good idea on town sentiment, and also ideas from people. There's a lot of great ideas out there that we wanted to give a repository to collect those. So we're receiving good response there. Again, that'll stay open until the end of December. And then just last week, on December 10th, we held a stakeholder kickoff session where those community groups, boards and commissions, town staff were invited to come in and kind of get the lay of the land on what our actual logistics were going to be for how we're going to get all of this feedback, organized and into a document. So we had really good attendance at that. Probably 15 different groups were represented, maybe even more, because a couple people represented multiple groups. And we've started getting some information back from those people. Gary Gaishel will be following up with all the town staff and departments, and various members of the subcommittee are kind of assigned different stakeholders to follow up with to get all of our feedback in. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that I communicated is one of our other feedback methods. We're hoping to have a public hearing on or around January 22nd, just as an open part of the Planning Commission open hearing or feedback session. Don't quote me as public hearing because we've got to still figure out the logistics, but an open forum to have people just come in and tell us how they feel, as kind of a way similar to the online survey to just get general member of the public opinion. We'll be having a rough draft of the document by the beginning of the summer, hopefully end of the spring, really. And it will be to this board in August to meet our statutory requirements for public hearings, allow editing time, and then get approved by you all and the Planning Commission and filed with the state of Connecticut by December 1st, 2020, so that we are in full compliance. So that was the update. Mark's been really great at staying in the loop. I'm sure he could have said everything I just said, but since I was here, I wanted you to hear from me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciate the update, and continue to do so as you see fit and necessary. Absolutely, you're very welcome. And there goes Michelle back to her meeting. Any other public delegation? Okay, approval of the minutes,
Moved.
December 4th.
Move to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 4th, 2019 as submitted.
Second.
Any corrections, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? I believe there's a consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of December 18th, 2019 in the amount of $1,952.86.
Second.
Motion and second. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Wonderful. We're going to the new business part of our agenda this evening, a special appropriation for the East Lyme Police Department K-9. Chief Finkelstein's here.
How are you?
Welcome.
How are you?
Good.
Well, I want to thank you for having me here tonight. East Lyme Police Department has had a K-9 program since 2003. As you are probably aware, this past fall we unfortunately lost the 2 K-9s that we had. One passed away. The other one, Knox, had to be retired because of physical illnesses. So that leaves us currently without a K-9 for our department. What we're looking to do is maintain 2, and the Police Commission has endorsed us remaining with 2 K-9s. If you think about the course of an individual day, you have 3 shifts. You have 7 days a week, so 21 shifts in a week. That is a lot of hours that need to be covered. If we have a K-9, 1 K-9, that only covers 40 hours during that week or 5 shifts. We rely on mutual aid all the time, as do other communities. So to be part of that community, we need to be able to have a K-9 that not only helps in our town, but also gives back to the people that are providing K-9s to us when we have our times of need. So what we're looking to do is, in a 2-step process, purchase 1 K-9 now, and then in next year's budget, look to purchase a second K-9. What this allows us to do is go purchase a K-9 which is not pre-certified, but pre-screened for the aptitude that's needed to be a police K-9, and get that K-9 to be one that is ready to be put through its paces with police training with its selected handler. The way that process works is we would need to have the approval for the funding before we can actually go out and look for that dog, because it is highly time sensitive and highly dependent on what is available at that particular time. So if we were to get approval for the finance to do that, we would then go out and look when we are ready with a selected handler to go find a available K-9 with that handler, because understanding as soon as we purchase it, that dog then goes to that handler's house, acclimates with that handler's family, and then we proceed down the path of getting that dog trained as a police K-9.
Terrific. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand that many of the canines have specialties,
Yes.
and
what type of canine is the department looking for?
So currently, and that's a great question. Currently, what we just had was we had a patrol shepherd who was cross-trained in narcotics, as well as a lab which was straight trained in narcotics. What we're looking to do is with the first canine, bring on another patrol dog. The patrol dog is that shepherd type or Belgian Malinois that is cross-trained in tracking as well as narcotics detection. Understand also that narcotics training takes place about a year after the dog's on the road. They don't like to imprint that dog until it really kind of learns its paces on the road. So that's a little bit more of a process why we want to start with a shepherd first. But the shepherd is very important because that is the type of dog in our situation which would track bad guys, which would be looking for people that were just committed a burglary, let's say, and we were doing a canine track based on scent and try to look for that person. It's also for aggression training, for handler protection as well as public protection, but also looking for missing people. So anything that's a scent detection article where they can go find somebody that may have walked away who had dementia, a missing child, so on and so forth. So that's a valuable asset, and that's why we want to get that type of canine up and running first. Then we're going to evaluate that second canine to see if we are going to go with a second patrol dog or a straight narcotics Labrador. They both have their advantages. I will say that a straight Labrador that is just doing narcotics is certainly much more honed on its task and does a much better job. I'm not saying the shepherd doesn't do a good job, but understanding, like with all of us, if we have one single task that we're doing, we're usually much more profound in that or proficient in that.
With our neighboring communities that we share services, do we have neighboring communities that have a dog that's specialized in sniffing for firearms, for bombing materials, or do you have to call the state for that?
Well, actually, bomb dogs are going to be the state or the federal government. There are, to my knowledge, no municipalities. Groton Town had one several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a trial program to try to do that. Firearms detecting dog is a very new science for the training of canines, so there are very few that are scattered throughout the state, but to my knowledge, nobody adjacent to us that has that. So that's kind of it's nice to have, but usually in a larger urban type area where you're going to have much more use for that. I think for us, if we were, we need to hone on what we're going to have here, and I think the patrol canine narcotics are our two biggest uses.
Thank you. Within your budget that you currently have, you still have unspent funds for care of the
Yes,
canine?
we do. Yes. Yep. Both canines, I think canine Gmo passed away during the summer, so just into the fiscal year. Canine Knox retired in October from our ranks, so we budget for the entire year for the veterinary care and food for both canines. So certainly there's more than ample money to provide that care once we have that dog up and running.
And you have an officer, or one or more officers that are willing to take on the responsibility?
We do, however, that will be a process. So there's a selection process that would take place. Once we have approval and we have the ability to do so, we will post that position as a special assignment, allow officers who are interested, who meet the requirements that we have, to basically apply for that position, go through the interview paces with not only our staff but also canine trainers from around the state who know that position, know that job and what they're looking for ultimately to have a selection of who our next handler will be. And reminding you, it's a two-step process where we want to do one now, one next year, so there'll be two opportunities for someone to come and handle a dog.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Good questions, Mrs. Hardy. Anybody else?
Just lastly, so what's the timeline if you get approved by this for getting the dog, and the dog will be actually out on patrol?
So a lot of it will depend on what the age of the canine is. When we go to these really kennels that breed just this type of dog, generally that's what we would do, but we would certainly look at all the options. Depends on the age of the dog. If they're sufficient to start training right now, we would look to see what training programs are available, whether it was through the Connecticut Police Work Dog Association, who has master trainers throughout the state that very often put on training programs, or if it was through the state police. We'd have to look at what options were available right then and make a determination. Most of those classes are several months for those handlers. For the patrol dog,
Okay.
narcotics detection is about 6 weeks. However, the patrol is a multi-month process. So you're probably talking about 4 or 5 months for that training to take place. So
Okay.
then that dog would be up and running once it came off our return from that training.
Where does the training take place?
It will depend. So if we go through the Connecticut Police Work Dogs, the last 2 dogs, for example, trained in the town of Waterford. We may have to go to the town of Willimantic or wherever the master trainer is operating out of. However, very often that training group moves around, so even though the master trainer may be out of Willimantic, they may be certain days training, down in Clinton, or may do it in Stonington based on, other dogs in other places where that group of dogs is going to train.
Okay.
So it's kind of a mobile type thing, and that includes their monthly training. They all move around to different locations.
And the 8,500, is that for the dog and training, or?
No, that's just for the dog, and
That's for the
that is kind of the ceiling that I've been given
Okay.
as far as what that dog is really running at right now.
Yep.
It's anywhere between 6,000 and 8,500. So that's why that selection
Special
process will take place. Of once we have the funding, we'll go out and search for not only what is the best quality canine, but also look for efficiency of for cost.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a couple.
Yes.
So, the handler will be a police officer?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Of course, right. And is the decision made, once the decision is made to get a dog, at what point do they decide, is the selection process made for the police officer handler for the dog? Simultaneously, or you get the dog first?
Nope,
or-
that would be the next step. The handler will be chosen prior to going out and getting the dog, because that handler will be part of that bonding selection with the canine. So they would accompany whoever was looking for the dogs. He would accompany that group of people to go try to find that, because that's an acclimation that you kind of have to start immediately,
Right.
because you want to build that relationship between the handler and the canine.
So handler for, authorization to
Yes.
get the dog.
Right.
Select the handler, and then bond the dog with that particular
That is correct,
handler.
yes. Yep.
One of the concerns I have these days, particularly with drug detection, is with the toxicity of fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any protocols in place to protect, I mean, this is a sizable investment, and also the, the emotional involvement with having that dog for the handler. Are there any protocols in place, do you know, to protect the drug sniffing dogs from fentanyl?
Yep, and there certainly is, the handlers are very cognizant of that, just like we are as police officers about handling any powders. They're very cognizant of making every attempt not to allow their canines or let their canines get to that close proximity where their noses are actually touching down to whatever product it may be. So it is a work in progress. Process. Unfortunately, we've had situations. Madison had one, for example. They had to Narcan the dog simply because he did make that contact. It is a risk of doing the job, but also why we also are going to have our handlers and our police officers trained in that first aid. So just as a human being would be Narcaned, the canine would be too. And ultimately, if you do that immediately, you're not going to have any adversarial effects.
So Narcan works on a,
It does. Yep.
Okay. I
Same,
didn't- okay.
same manifestation and same,
that's good to know.
receptor blocker.
Thank you.
I vote for the German Shepherd.
If you'd like to put that in the motion, of course, that would limit Chief's decision-making opportunities.
It's okay. I can guarantee you we're going to go with the Shepherd first anyway. So that's, or again, it could be a Belgian Malinois. That's really where a lot of towns are going because of some of the characteristics of that animal. However, we have to see what's available at the time that we're looking at.
My stepfather was a police officer, and we always got to bring the dogs home that flunked.
Oh,
And they
yeah.
were German Shepherds, those that weren't mean enough, or sturdy enough, then we got them as kids.
I think this is a fantastic opportunity here. I mean, it's a very easy way to add an extra member to your patrol as well, because you have a backup. If you're the dog handler, you have somebody there. And if you have to do a building search, if you have someone who's armed inside a building, as much as you hate to say it, you'd rather send a dog in than an officer. I mean, it's a great resource to have. And when I was still working, I was able to use the services of Knox on a couple of occasions to come up to Salem, and it worked very effectively. Here again, talking about that resource. So I can't speak highly enough about the K-9 program at all. So I'll move to approve move to appropriate and transfer $4,250 from contingency account 01-01-120-200-500 contingency to an account to be established titled Police K-9 and forward to the Board of Finance for approval.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further comment? Any other dog choices, Roseanne?
Nope, that's
Okay,
number
you
one.
made your point.
Dog handler?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
We'll go to Board of Finance,
Right.
I think, next month and do this again.
So that's for the one.
Because of the limit being under, what is it, 10,000, Roseanne,
Yes.
Anna, we will not go to town meeting with this. Correct, okay. We'll just get approval from Board of Finance as well, hopefully. Next on our agenda is to schedule a town meeting for the well 1A and well 6 item that we saw at our last meeting.
Move, Town of East Lyme, notice a special town meeting. Notice is hereby given of a special town meeting of the Town of East Lyme to be held on January 8th, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the East Lyme Town Hall Upper Meeting Room for the following purposes. 1, to receive communications from the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance with respect to a resolution entitled Resolution Amending a Resolution Appropriating $4,640,000 for the construction of modifications and upgrades to the East Lyme Well 1A and Well 6 Water Treatment Plant Project and authorizing the issuance of $4,640,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriation pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. 2, to consider and act upon a resolution entitled Resolution Amending a Resolution Appropriating $4,640,000 for the construction of modifications and upgrades to the East Lyme Well 1A and Well 6 Water Treatment Plant Project and authorizing the issuance of $4,640,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriation pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. 3, to transact any other business proper to become before the town meeting, and a copy of the proposed bond resolution is on file and open to the public inspection at the office of the town clerk, dated at East Lyme, Connecticut, this 18th day of December 2019, East Lyme Board of Selectmen.
Second?
Motion and second. Any comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? We're off to our town meeting. Next is the discussion and possible action of fishing dock leases. We've had a subcommittee in place who have met fairly recently, as a matter of fact, but as also have met and talked about the leases. What is the report from the subcommittee?
So we met before this meeting. We went over available information that we received from applicants. Unfortunately, we don't feel like we have enough information to make a decision. We only had one application. We had a letter indicating they want to continue, and then one of the other applicants we haven't heard back. We don't have anything from. So we're going to request, as we did last year, that we delay on this until the first meeting in January, until we get more information, get appropriate information from the applicants to make an informed decision.
Okay.
So what we need is the town to contact the 3 applicants who didn't fill out an application form. One was a phone message, and one existing leasee didn't submit an application.
A current leasing?
Correct. So,
And we've made proper communications to all these people? No.
I think in the order of fairness, before we
Yeah.
address, the one application we did receive,
Okay.
and one very, very well-intentioned letter that didn't have a filled-out application with it. We feel that anyone who's interested in leasing should fill out the town's application form so that we can assess them all on the same merits.
You're requiring the current leasees to also fill out an application.
Yeah.
One I think has an ongoing lease that has a guaranteed renewable, the Blackhawk.
The other-
Yeah, but
Um,
we're fine with that. We were.
We don't need
we
that.
don't have a
I want to
problem
be
with
clear for the
Blackhawk.
record. So the Blackhawk, so
It was the other two.
leasees, and apparently there's going
The
to be
two
new.
that are expiring, they should
Okay.
take it up.
And anybody else who's interested
And they won't.
parties.
That's
Okay,
Yeah.
so now we have that clear communication at the first selectman's office. We'll get that information out. Okay.
Once received, because we have a pretty full slate that first meeting, if we could
Probably the
receive
second
those
meeting.
applications. No,
Yeah.
as long as we can get, if we can get them in and get them ahead of the meeting, lets us do our review, and we can have a meeting at 6:45, potentially before the town meeting, and be in a position to make a recommendation at our regular.
The January 8th meeting?
Correct.
That's right.
Okay, so they'll have to go out pretty darn quick. either by email or whatever, and we'll, and, you know, I know the communication's already being delivered. So, very good. Okay, then we shall press on then, right? Okay. And we'll want to make sure that Sandy has all the information necessary to make sure you folks get all the paperwork.
I'll communicate
you
to her
need.
what we need.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, that's easy. The ex officio appointments for 2020 need to be continued. We left off, I'm sorry, ex officio, not the appointments to commissions.
Yeah.
My apologies. Let me flip to that. So, are there any requests for movement? I have not reached out to you folks, but we've been kind of moving along in a very good pattern as everybody is doing their ex officio duties, which wasn't always the case in the history of the Board of Selectmen. So I get feedback from all these different commissions, and everybody seems, commissions seem very happy with what they have, and there's some continuity of what you know and how you are able to help these commissions. Is there any request to move things around, or shall we continue as is?
I'm happy.
Mark, you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were gonna lighten your load a little bit. We talked about that, about whether you're gonna run for Board of Selectmen again, and, you know, you're a growing family, and, but if you can move ahead with this, and anytime you get into a bind with kids' sports and all that, I know
Yeah.
Kevin and I would reach out, anybody, I'm sure will reach
Yep.
out and help, because we often cover each other's.
I assure you, he's got me on speed dial, so.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody, if everyone's good, I'll, we don't need a motion, I'll just, reappoint you all to the same commissions as you, that are standing today. I have the January and January Board of Education meetings,
I have March.
and as you see, they're all listed out there, so, Daigle, if you have any trouble with February, because work is a little busy, and you've been doing a whole lot of extra work on the public safety building, so if you need any help, just let me know,
Thank you.
and I'll find you somebody. We need an authorization of First Selectman to sign check registers.
Move that the Board of Selectmen delegates to the First Selectman, and upon the absence or disability of the First Selectman, to the Deputy First Selectman, the Board's obligation to sign the orders of the Board of Selectmen on the Town Treasury for payment of regularly budgeted expenses of the town, with the exception of those of a capital nature over $50,000 where bids are required, and further, that the signed orders covering the period subsequent to the previous regular meeting of the board be presented at each regular meeting of the board for review. In the absence of the First Selectman and his deputy, the First Selectman may delegate the obligation to sign the orders of the Board of Selectmen to the Second Deputy First Selectman for payment of the expenses of the town.
Second?
Any further comment? This is an annual thing we do. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Ex officio reports?
Appointment.
Appointments to boards and commissions. I've been waiting for that.
Okay, I'll move to appoint Peter Harris, 5 Southridge Road, Niantic, as a member of the Niantic River Watershed Board with a term to expire on January 8, 2024.
I'll second.
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Great.
Move to appoint Todd Donovan, 23 Sandpiper Lane, East Lyme, as a member of the Parks and Rec Commission with a term to expire on January 8, 2024.
Second?
It's been seconded. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay.
Move to appoint Charles Fennick, 78 River Road, Niantic, as a lifetime member emeritus on the Park and Recreation Commission.
Second?
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
I'd just like